Now, given the circumstances, I've decided to also create a video in English language about the issue of COVID-19 or the novel coronavirus epidemics or pandemics or whatever you want to call it, that is spreading internationally, and its implications for the idea or process that you might have to start working as a doctor, dentist or nurse in Germany. The process already has been quite complicated. Delays usually have been due to waiting times at the institutions that are responsible for processing the applications and so on. So the process has already been complicated and long, usually much longer than a year in most cases, especially if you're from a non-EU country. So now there comes something on top, and the bottom line of this talk today is that on the one hand, I cannot, of course, predict the future in a way that I can tell you precisely what's going to happen. Nobody can do that. That is not my intention. But unfortunately, I do have to warn you of the consequences that I believe personally that this epidemic will have on your process of getting the approbation in Germany. And I will tell you why, of course. I mean, most things should be quite obvious to everybody now that I'm saying. Nothing will really come as a surprise. I saw that coming already a while ago, and then probably people would have been like, oh my God, you know, that's too early, and it's probably not going to be that bad, and all this and that. But now, since the disaster is unfolding and the chaos and all these things and all the organizational challenges that we will be facing in our own lives, including myself and my family, and then that only becomes more complicated when we look at such a delicate process as you coming to Germany, because the bottom line, and you're all very aware of that, is that you usually not only have long waiting times, and it's all very complicated with documents, it's also very expensive to pay for all the trips, the necessary stays in Germany. Nobody pays you, you're not working in that time usually. And now on top of all this come factors like cancelled flights, restrictions on travel. And just yesterday I had the first actual case of an Israeli citizen who is restricted now by the Israeli Ministry of Health from leaving the country. So he cannot attend an exam that was scheduled in 2 weeks. And that has to be postponed. And that has two kinds of implications. The one implication is to get a new exam date, which can take a long time. And I would expect that the waiting times will get longer and longer due to accumulated waiting lists from people who had to postpone for other reasons. Of course, if somebody gets sick, at the medical chambers and these institutions, you can imagine that the pile of work that they have is just getting more. And the other aspect is when it's on the side of you as participant, as you as the one who wants to attend the exam, like it was the case with this Israeli doctor, you might have to postpone for that reason. So it is really very unfortunate, and don't get me wrong, I mean, looking at the number of fatalities and the number of patients who need intensive or sophisticated medical care, these problems are to be kept a bit in perspective. So I do not want to be understood wrong. I'm talking to a very specific audience here of you being in that process. So I'm of course not forgetting also that there are other problems in the world that we're not usually talk about here on this channel. But when it comes to your process and in that situation which you are right now becoming healthcare professional in Germany, and when it comes to these applications, this virus will affect you, and in very inconvenient ways, and it's definitely going to happen. I don't think you can prepare for most of it. When it comes to cancellations and this kind of thing, you can only react. There's nothing really you can do to prepare for that, because you have to go through the process, and if the process tells you, you know what, you have to wait more, you have to wait a few months, you can only make the best out of the situation. Let's be clear here. But my focus is, and it's maybe the only real thing where I can actually give you some informed advice, is take the preparation for the exam serious. If you have an exam now or very soon, or schedule at all during the months to come, it would then be on top a complete disaster that would be avoidable if you failed this exam. So please take it serious, do the right things. There are tons and tons of advice on my own channel and materials that you can access, and where you see what you got to do in order to pass the exams. There are numerous videos. Most of them are in German language. So if you have a very specific question, or if you want me to do something in English, if you're still on a B1 level or like starting B2 and you're just not sure if you get everything I say, and of course if you are on a B2 and a C1, that means you have been A1, A2, B1 at some point. So you still belong on this channel, you know, like you're on your path, just you're a little bit early on that process. But it's just a few months. So there is no harm in you already knowing what are then the right steps to take when you reach a B2 or a good B1. So let me know if there are specific questions that I haven't answered in English yet, and I'll do my best to, you know, come up with something, or if I just write a reply, and so that it's quicker. So that is, I think, the only thing that is really in your control, is how you prepare now. And the damage of failing the exam will be higher than it already has been in the past. This is number one. And number two is that the time you can dedicate to the preparation will probably be a lot less flexible than it was in the past. And not only time, but also, you know, would you really see yourself, given the current starting cancellations of mass gatherings, closing of schools and universities and so on, do you really see yourself in a language class right now? Let me just put that question out there. And I'm not asking so much about your maybe individual specific risk, but is it likely that that's going to happen? And of course, in a few weeks and like a couple of weeks and few months, your very personal individual risk is relevant, and also the risk of spreading the virus to family members who might be more at risk of getting a severe manifestation of the disease, of course. So the more time passes, I do think mitigation, risk reduction, social distancing becomes more and more important. And we're not talking about long stretches of a couple of months here. We're talking about very near, usually in the realm of your planned course or whatever you're trying to do in order to get this exam down. So I'm here also in an obvious conflict of interest, and I don't feel especially well telling you this and basically playing down the on-site courses because others are doing them and I don't, because everything I offer you is purely online. So full disclosure, of course I'm in a conflict of interest here. So anybody might say, you know what, of course, you know, you like that effect that group courses are very unattractive now in the next few months at least. To be honest with you, I don't like it at all. First of all, the reason for it is terrible. Second of all, I've been doing very well with designing solutions for people who just have a higher liking of the way of doing stuff online. There are just people who say, you know what, I like to work by myself, and I like the live sessions, I like to work with the videos, I like this independence of being able to study when I want and where I want. That is not the right thing for everybody. Yes, of course, there are amazing advantages that you can have online, especially if the online materials are on a very high level of quality, like I am offering them. But there is a type of student, let me say this, is who don't really fit in there, especially those who have huge trouble with everything that is technical, or don't really have access to a real internet connection. And that is in some countries still an issue. I mean, you need to be able to stream a video, else it will be a little difficult for you, you know. Or you just like being in a group with other people and having a way to talk to people, getting to know. If you just like that so much more, then my courses and my materials will not be a complete solution for you, and they never were. And of course, now in that new situation, you might reevaluate your priorities a little. You might be like, well, you know, it would have not been my first choice. And there are also situations, well, let me finish that thought. It might not be my first choice, but now I reconsider it, and now it becomes more attractive. Well, okay then. But there's a whole other range of problems, which comes down to that many of you have booked on-site courses in order to get the visa. So that will be a problem for a multitude of reasons. I commit to keeping you informed about developments on that matter that come to my knowledge, and would like to try to be solution-oriented as much as I can. And what I have already started a few days ago is an initiative to offer prolongations and of materials and courses that you have with my company and with my courses for only a 10% fee, which is taking care of our administrative effort in order to make that happen. So if you have a course running right now and your exam is being postponed because of the virus, and be it either that you're affected personally, or either the medical chambers cancel the exam, or your flight gets cancelled, whatever the reason is, or even if a family member is seriously ill, because, you know, come on, we have been very, very flexible with these kind of reasons in the past as well. When somebody told me, you know what, I was sick and I basically couldn't log in now for, 2 months, and, can you give me something? Of course we prolonged that, we will find a fair way to handle this situation together, so that at least you have one concern less. Because I believe we all will have a lot of concerns, and even if we hopefully all get a mild version of it, there's a considerable share of people who don't, and who will have to spend time in a hospital, and the breakdown of the healthcare systems in most countries is, in my personal opinion, inevitable, and it will just happen. And with breakdown, I mean just an incredible amount of stress that will be put on the system, i.e. the healthcare professionals, the service providers, which of course includes you. So I do see it all very, very serious, and there is no time to play around. So I do think that with that decision of mine, that Fachsprache.org will not make your life more difficult. We will treat these cases generously and also very informally and quickly for you, so that at least then you can focus on what matters, and all the other things you will have to focus on during the months to come, which I'm very sure about. In addition, the current case I told you about, the Israeli doctor who couldn't leave his country, he had a couple of one-on-one sessions with me already scheduled, and I always did offer free cancellations and postponing, unlimited, for all one-on-one with me. That was always the case. at a service on that level, how I provided it. That goes without saying. This is just part of the service. But some people are not aware of that. So, of course, you could postpone always, but especially in the current situation, I would be more than understanding that you do postpone, and so we did in that case. So we're postponing obviously now these sessions that he still has and which were already paid to a moment in the future where he really needs them. And I will of course do my best to update the online materials as I did in the last months, to make them better and better and to make them your go-to resource for the preparation of these exams, independent of time and location. And I do think that is the future. And sadly, that current reason, although it's a terrible one, but reminds us once again how dependent we are sometimes on structures, on infrastructure. And of course, it cannot always be avoided, but when it comes to the preparation for these exams, you can do it remotely. And I'm offering you excellent materials and programs in order to do that. And online, I would say, was for a long time, online was a little bit of compromise on certain things, especially when it comes to e-learning. Like online learning courses were just not the same, and they just couldn't give you what you needed. And I would say that in the area of the FSP preparation and the Kenntnisprüfung preparation, that myself and my company, we have basically revolutionized the sector and created materials that are fully on par with on-site courses, and given the flexibility and other features that you have there, which are pretty obvious when you look at a well-done video course, is just giving you advantages which are now, in my opinion, even better. But that's my personal opinion and preference and liking. As I said before, there is just a certain kind of participant for whom the learning in a classroom will be the better choice. It will just be the better way, and you have to decide that for yourself. So there is really two solutions, but the online one got better and is now an excellent way to do it. Stay healthy, take care of yourself. I wish us all smart minds and of course maybe a little bit of luck in the months that are to come. And it emphasizes again how important the healthcare sector is, obviously, but also how overstretched the healthcare sector already is and was in most countries. Also in Germany now there is a big discussion coming up, not only regarding preparedness, like how much of disinfectant should we have had somewhere, or should we have had these masks, in large quantities and all this. I think this is less what the system is to blame for, but if you now look at how many intensive care beds are actually available or can be made available, and you look at the numbers and they're already 99% full, and how many ECMO beds do you have in the country, and you're like, oh my God. And now all these people who will inevitably need intensive care or very sophisticated medical attention, and you see like even a medical system like Germany has and will have enormous trouble to face this challenge. And I think this is what we're getting from the pressures of economization and the market-driven approach and the profit-driven approach to healthcare. But that's a whole other discussion we will have to have once that whole wave went through. I don't think there is not even really the time for that right now. So I hope you found that video a bit helpful and I could share some of my most pressing thoughts with you, and wish you all the best. Good luck, and if you have any more questions, please post them down there. I'll be happy to answer them as much as I can, and maybe see you on my website, in the courses, in the group sessions, and let's make the best of that situation together.